Hey there, Chad here. Thanks for joining me. This is my complete beginner's guide to Aurora 4X. And if you've made it this far with me, you know that it's a complete beginner's guide because I'm still a complete beginner. And I've probably followed up a couple of things. I think we got everything corrected that I've said wrong so far. But do keep that in mind. I don't have all of the answers, and I'm not always exactly right in what I'm putting down here. But I am giving you the best that I can right now for what I know about the game. And either way, what I'm showing you will get you to the point of getting to a new system. That's really my goal. My plan is to do that a couple of more times and then really take a hard stab at the mid game. I want to kind of see I like to test the envelope, I guess, so to speak. I want to see what the real parameters of what the game gives me look like. Right now, the game looks like I haven't been able to leave Earth yet because I haven't been able to leave Earth yet. I mean, that's why. But we did, in the previous episode, design our very first component, which was an engine. And we are researching that engine right now. It'll be ready in about 2.5 months. So we're going to go ahead and advance. I'm going to jump over to industry real quick, and you will notice that we are about 40% of the way, 35% of the way through our conversion of conventional industry into construction factories. That's fantastic. We're about halfway through. Well, we're 45% of the way through with fuel and financial centers. And mines have a way to go. We're slow rolling the mines, and that was by design. I think we're okay with everything. We don't really need to add anything just yet, so we're good to go with these. And the one other thing that I'm itching to do, but we're going to move on and get to the ship design here today. But I do want to go through and clean up my structure of people because I feel it's burning a hole in my head that they're going to start retiring on me before I ever get to use them. I have 142 lieutenant commanders. I need to bump people up rank a little bit. Haven't even started thinking about the ground units. We will talk about ground units soon in a future episode, but I do want to show you what all that research we've been doing does for us. If we come in here and we go to formation templates, we're not going to build one right now, but all those things we've been researching, they're showing up here because we can now use those in our formations. We can start to implement them. Now, one thing I have kind of changed my approach on, I've got this basic in front of all of these. I'm probably going to remove that. It's easy enough. We just do a rename. I've decided I don't need it to say basic. Basic should be the default understanding, and anything else should be a tag at the end when we need it. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do them all right now, but just to show you that it's a fairly straightforward process. It's hitting 6 backspaces or deletes, depending on which way you do it. There you go. And I'll go through and do the rest of those as well. Maybe we'll do them together in a future episode. But ultimately, that's how we would do that. I also had the engine. That's right. The engine we designed, which hasn't been researched yet. I had an accidental typo in there. We'll fix that as well. But we can't do it yet. It has to be a component before I think I can do that. Okay, let's see what happens here. We'll go ahead and watch from the industry screen again. And we're just going to let her rip. This will be really quick. There we go. A science team led by Jude Walks has completed the Aerojet Propulsion Systems APS CNE 7530 radioisotope engine. That is outstanding. That's what we wanted to see. Let's go and true up our research. We do not need these. I keep thinking we need these to do our next step, and we really don't. So let's take a quick check and see if there's something else we want to research. It does not hurt to improve your research rate early. It's going to cost us 5,000 research points to do that, and that is a lot, but it improves our research speed dramatically. Dramatically, I mean, it's not like double, but I think it's a 10 or 20% increase in speed. I think it's 20%. We'd be researching things 20% faster. That sounds good, right? So I think we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to add those to Valencia here, give her that project. And we're going to take away from this one because otherwise it's going to take her like 6 more years to to do this. And again, we don't need the trans-Newtonian cargo shuttles yet. We need them eventually. So we're safe to go ahead and grab a bunch of these. Let's go ahead and we'll just take the ones I got already. And we'll dump them in here, and that'll bring that date down a little bit. Still a few years off. Yeah, it's more years than I actually thought it would be, but there you have it. Oh, it's only 2. 1. It's a year and a month out. So that's not bad at all. I was thinking it was worse than that. We've got some time before that'll kick in, but that'll give us a little bit of room to play with the ship that we're going to design. Okay, how do we make a ship? Well, I'm glad you asked. What we are going to do is go up to this button right here, which is the class design window. And this is where we design our ships. Now, when you first open the window, it'll look like this. I like to go to the wide view. If you don't do the wide view, if you don't like that space, if you don't have the space for it, whatever it is, you're getting an extra column. That column is implemented through a radio button if you don't do the wide view. So we will see the components that are available to us. You'd have to click this to see what's actually installed on a ship. And if we go to wide view, you see them both. This is what's on the ship, which is nothing because there is no ship yet. Let's get started. So some components here to know about. There's this guy here that has a huge list of ship types, and a lot of them are just different names of the same thing. Don't let that fool you. We'll see some of that here in a moment, but I'm not seeing any jump out at me right now. We will actually momentarily, because what we're going to do, let's go find survey ships. So I'm going to just type in SUR, and here we go. Surveillance cruiser, frigate, carrier, et cetera, et cetera. I want to come down here. You'll notice there's a survey craft. There's a survey, well, carrier isn't exactly what I was talking about. There's survey support. There's survey ship. That's the one I'm actually going to take. There's survey vessel. What's the difference in a vessel and a ship? Well, there really isn't one. It's whatever you want it to be. What we're really going after here is we're getting the designation. Survey ship is going to give me a designation of SS. Now, normally that would be a submarine, but we're in space. We don't have submarines. So we will know that when we see SS in a name, that it's a survey ship. That's all that does. It just kind of sets the tone for the class for us. The second thing I'm going to do is then click New Ship Class. Hey, go figure. There it is. And what it has done is it has created a series of ships that are survey ships. And the very first one it has is the Portland class. This is the name of the class. It is not the name of a vessel. We're not actually designing a specific ship. We're designing a blueprint for a ship right now. In fact, you see here, Portland class survey ship. Okay, now what we will do is make this blueprint, and then we will build multiple ships from it. That's how this works. Now, is Portland the name I want? Well, no, it's not. Let's go ahead and handle that right away, because this is something that for quite a while I didn't fully understand how it worked in the game. There's all these lists of names, and what I'm going to do is when we started the game, I set it to class theme United States. That's how it came up with the name Portland. If you had put in class theme UK, it might have come up with something like, like London or Manchester or something like that, or something else that is very British, right? If you'd done Germany, it might have been German names. It might have been German battleships. It could have done a whole bunch of different things. I selected US because that makes the most sense to me. But I did that kind of just so it's a starting point. I don't have to stick with it. If I ever like it, hey, I'm done. No problem. What I'm going to do now, though, is go to select name. I could just rename it directly. But what I want to do is find a series of names that I'm going to like that I can then set the rest of the ships to come in as. And for my survey ships, I like to go after astronomer names. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to find astronomers. These are all lists. Each one of these lists has a different collection of names in it. Now, I say a different collection, there are duplicates. So, this isn't, 1,000 lists here with 1,000 names. So that means there's 1 million names in there. That's not the case. There's duplicates everywhere. If we go to US cities, if we go to cities, we might see Portland. If we go to US cities, we do see Portland because we've seen it come up already. So there you have it. That's how it works. Some of these things are realistic. Some of them are like Japanese battleships from World War II. And some of them are based on fantasy literature and television and movies like Battlestar Galactica names. Here we have the Galactica and the Pegasus. We all know about those two, right? We have the list of all the other ones that were out there. You get to pick whatever you want. I like to do my survey ships as astronomers because that's what makes sense to me. And then it gives me the list of all the astronomers here that it has in its list. I'm going to select a specific one, Carl Edward Sagan. If you're not in the U.S., Carl Sagan is a former, he passed away quite a while ago. He's an astronomer. He did a show called Cosmos. I'm almost certain you can get Cosmos almost anywhere. It was a great educational show for its time. Really, it's kind of timeless in a lot of ways, but nonetheless, he was a great mind, wrote some great books, including the book that led to the movie Contact. So there you have it. There's your piece of trivia today. I wonder if that'll show up in the notes. All right, so we've selected our class is going to be the Carl Edward Sagan-class. So currently it says Portland, but that will change. It'll update as we go through here. The other thing I want to do then is I want to name all of my ships that way. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to go to this Priorities and Miscellaneous. And when I go there, over here I have my naming theme, and I'm basically going to select the same one that I just did. I'm going to go to A, and then I'm going to find Astronomers, and I'm going to click that. And then I'm just going to say select randomly out of here. Now, if I wanted all of them to have a prefix, like maybe I was doing city names, I might want them to all have new as the prefix. So New London, and I started to say New York. That would be true, but there would also potentially be New York. I don't know that I'd go with that. New Philadelphia, though, New Brandenburg, things like that. Those would show up. I would put that. Or if you wanted to put something at the end, like I don't know what you might put at the end. You could put nothing's jumping to mind. Ship, whatever you want, you could do that here, and it will show up when we go to build those ships. I'm not going to worry about these right now. I'm not sure how to use auto design, and I'm not sure what these do, and so I don't really need to at this point. Go back to class design, though. We want to design our ship. This one's a really simple one to do. These are going to be survey ships that are going to go around and catalog all of the asteroids, comets, planets, moons, and dwarf planets in the system. And they're going to do that by visiting them and using their geological survey sensors. Okay? And when they do that, they'll catalog it and they'll indicate whether or not there are resources available to us on that particular comet, asteroid, planet, moon. That's their job. That's all they're going to do. They take a lot of time to do that. They'll be in space for years at a time. And that's okay. That's the intent. So what we're going to do is basically to design the ship, all we have to do, it's really simple. We have to take the things that are over here that we need on the ship, and we double click them and they show up over here. A couple of points of order or control to know about. These are the things I really need to have. And here and here. Okay. These are the categories I'm going to use most for this ship design. Down here, we can mark parts as obsolete. And if we do that, we'll hit obsolete and it will change it. We can also ask it to show us anything that's a prototype. We talked about that a little bit in the previous episode. But this is how you would actually see things that you set are prototype. You'd click that. This 1, 5, 20, and 100, that's basically how many of the thing it's going to add when you double click it. That's what that is for. And something I just remembered is we have this piece that is misnamed. I want to fix that only because I can. It's not really imperative, but I can go to this guy here, which is the Open Technology Report window, and I can click here and go to engines because it's an engine, and he shows up there, and I can click on him and I can go down to rename. And there it brings up our rename window, and all I need to do is remove that silly semicolon. I didn't mean to put that in there. There we go. And there is its new name. Of course, if we needed to change it to something else for whatever reason, we could do that. And then if we wanted to mark it as obsolete, this is where we would do that. We don't want to mark this one as obsolete. It is our top of the line nuclear engine right now. So why would we mark it as obsolete? Okay, when I leave the class design, you don't lose anything. It's saved, it's there. Well, it isn't saved to disk, but it's saved in the game. It's all there, and I can come back to it just like that. And here you see our Carl Sagan-class, and there's nothing on it yet. So we're gonna, well, there is stuff on it. I didn't have it clicked. Once I click it, we see there's a few things on it. It automatically puts defense on it. We can tell it no armor, and it'll take most of it off. But some of the things we put on it are going to require armor, so we might as well have it. It's specifically a nuclear engine, right? It needs it shielded. So I think that's what it's doing there anyway. All right. So what do we need on this ship? Well, we know it's going to be a geological survey ship, so we're going to need geological survey sensors. I choose to put 2 on. So if you click on it here, it tells you what you're getting down here. 1 survey point per hour, and that's fantastic. I want it to do 2 survey points per hour though, so I'm going to click it twice. Boom, boom. Okay, now each one of those added some weight, and does it show us the weight? It does. Each one of those weighs 250 tons, so I added 500 tons by double clicking that. We're up to 750 tons right there. Just point to note is, and you know what? It only added one of them. So there we go. There's the second one. So now it's added it there. There you have it. If we want to remove them, you just double click them here and they go away. And we're down to 453 tons. So as you can see, adding them in. Yeah. And the reason it's not linear. Why did it not only go up by 500 tons? Because we had to add other stuff like crew quarters for the people who are going to be working the sensors. So it had to add extra crew quarters, and that adds weight. Everything you do adds weight. Okay. Other things to know on this screen, something that's really easy to forget. It's particularly important when you're working with military vessels, and this will be a military vessel because, for no other reason, it has these geological survey sensors on it. That makes it military for whatever reason. I'm sure there is a reason. I just don't know what it is. When you have a military ship, deployment time is important. It's done in months. So currently it says that the deployment time of this vehicle is expected to be 3 months. Well, no, that's nowhere near what we want. We actually want it to be maybe even as much as 5 years. The ship will go out and it will do its survey stuff for 5 years. It's on a 5-year mission to boldly seek out, never mind. But that's where we're at. We're going to go to 5 years, which is 60 months. You'll notice here it says intended deployment time, 60 months. Morale check required. Yes, the crew will have a morale check. I think if it's a combat ship, that is much more important than if it's a survey ship. Also, the ship probably won't be out for 5 years at a time. It will probably come back before then for a couple of reasons, and we'll see some of that in a moment. What else do we need? Well, we need one of those big engines we talked about, and we'll get to that in a moment. But some other things to just be aware of. By the way, we will need to probably add some maintenance too. I like to add the auxiliary control to most all of my ships. Survey ships, maybe not quite as important, but I think it is helpful. And what it basically does, it's a little silly. It adds the ability for you to have an XO, an executive officer on the ship. So our ship will start with a commander. You'll notice right here is his rank of what is expected there. And by adding aux, it added this here. It will have a second commander on the ship, the auxiliary commander. It gives us the ability to put 2 officers on the ship. That's what it does. And their bonuses impact the performance of the ship. Makes some sense. Also, as I mentioned, I have like 173 or something like that lieutenant commanders who have nothing to do right now. It gives somebody a job. Somebody will have a job. They'll be sitting in this seat, and that we need, at least initially. Okay. Next up, let's get those engines at it. Right now, this is the only one we have available to us. We're going to double click it once to add 1 to the ship. And what we can see is by adding 1 engine, It can go at 12, almost 1,300 kilometers per second. That is a really good clip. That's really, really fast. A lot of times I will put 2 of those engines on here, but there are some drawbacks to that. And let's go ahead and see if we can build a decent ship for just one. First of all, you'll notice our tonnage went way, way up. We're at 3,000 tons of ship now. Part of that is my choice to use a larger engine so that it would have more power. You know, your mileage may vary. But the good news is we're in really super good shape now for what we have for a couple of reasons, and we'll see that just a moment. I think we can get by with just one engine on this. Other considerations. So we have all the stuff we want on the ship. We have an engine. We have the geological survey sensors. We don't need to put weapons on. We don't need to do anything like that. This ship is a peaceful science ship. That's all it's meant to be. Okay, so let's look through here. Maintenance life, 2 years. Well, we're saying we want the ship to be in space for 5 years. 2 years is less than 5 years. We can only support the maintenance of the ship for 2 years. How do we deal with that? Well, that's where we add maintenance bays. We're going to go ahead and add a small maintenance bay and see what that does. That bumped it up to 3.5 years. We're going to go ahead and add another one, 4.56 years. And I think we'll add one more and it'll put it way over the top. Yeah, almost an extra half year. That looks pretty good to me. Our ship still comes in at under 3,000 tons. That's important. It's not devastating one way or the other, but it is important. And the important news is we have enough maintenance life at this point. So a couple of other things to note on what this means. By the way, each one of those we probably added a little bit of crew and also decreased our speed because we were adding mass. The armor on it is 1 and it covers 18 segments of ship is my understanding of what this means. I have not paid any attention to those yet whatsoever. The shields, we haven't started shields yet, haven't paid attention. HTK, what HTK stands for is hits to kill. It's a little bit like hit points, but it's more like a mitigative factor. If it is hit at once with 13 points, it doesn't kill it. And now I might be remembering how that works. Nonetheless, 14 is a big number. We're in very good shape with that. We don't need to worry about it. I believe it has to do with you have to exceed it for it to be damaged sort of thing. I have not gotten to combat to have to pay really close attention to that yet. Again, this is not meant to be a warship, so it's not super important. Sensors. There are 4 different kinds of sensors. The only ones we have are geological sensors, and that's this last number here. We have 2 points of those, and that's what that is indicating. I do not remember what DCR is, and I don't think I remember what PPV is. So I'm not going to worry about those right now. This maintenance line, I do know a little bit about what this is saying. So we are taking 370 maintenance supply points with us because of the size of the maintenance bays that we have. The annual failure rate is 69%. That is really high. I don't like that. In fact, that is high enough. We might see if we add an engineering space, if it brings that down. It brings it down significantly. So we are probably going to add that and get rid of some of these parts. And maybe even add a tiny one too. Yeah, that brings it down pretty good. What that means is a part will fail on the ship 40% of the time every year. In a year, there's a 40% chance something will fail. That's basically what it means. So I just manipulated the numbers a little bit by lowering the number of parts we're carrying and increasing the engineer spaces. I believe it added 5 crew with what I added. I think we were at 50 and now we're at 55. I could be mistaken there. But ultimately, you play with these engineering spaces, reduces the annual failure rate and the individual failure rate. I think that's a daily rate. There's a 0.6% chance something will fail every day. And then in 1 year, we will use 12 of our maintenance supply points. And in 5 years, we'll use 179 of our maintenance supply points. And the maximum repair job would take 100 maintenance supply points. So the biggest thing that fails, probably the engine, would cost 100 points to fix, is what that's basically telling us. And that's up to, if it's like completely wrecked. It can be less than that. We don't really see this. This is managed behind the scenes for us for the most part, from what I can tell. When something fails, you can get to that information, but you don't have to be on top of every one of those. Okay, so we have some wiggle room here. We're still well over our deployment time. I could try to remove one more of these small bays, although we're down to the last one, so maybe I can't do that. So never mind. I don't think I want to do that, because then we won't have parts at all, I don't think. Oh, we do, actually. But we're down to 4.5 years. So let's go ahead and add that back in. We're adding tiny in. Tiny, so the tinies are 2.5 tons versus the small, which is 10 tons. So they're a quarter of the size. So we can get by with 3 of those. That gives us plenty of space. The MSP went up quite a bit. The failure rate is still at 40 and 0.6. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think we're in good shape there. Okay, the fuel we're currently carrying on the ship, is that everything up here? I think it is. That's everything you need to know there. The commander the ship will be commanded by a rank of commander or above. Control rating, I'm not quite sure what that means. There is a bridge on it. Maybe that's how many officers. That could be what it is. There is a bridge and there's an auxiliary control on it. That's what that's telling us. Here is our intended deployment time. Then here's our engine, how much power it puts out, its fuel information. I do not remember what EXP is. Fuel capacity. So we have one large fuel storage on this ship. It holds 250,000 liters, and it gives us a range of almost 200 billion kilometers. That's 10 times back and forth across the length of the solar system. So that is a huge, huge, huge number. In fact, we could run the engine at full speed for 1,700 consecutive days, which is way, way, way over our 5 years. I guess it's not way, way, way over, is it? It's a little closer than I realized. But nonetheless, we could do that. Wouldn't be a problem. That is overkill. We don't need that much fuel. So we're going to remove that large tank. If we click on the tank, we see that the large tank is 250 tons and it holds 250,000 liters. So each ton holds 1,000 liters. We're going to remove that one. And the step down from large is, whoops, sorry, I was holding down a key there. Didn't like that. The step down from large is standard. So we're going to add a standard. You'll notice the standard is only 1/5 of the size. It's 50 tons instead of 250 tons. So that means it'll be 50,000 liters for each one we add. We're going to add one, and we see that our range, where did it go? Did I miss it? I did. Oh, I added another maintenance bay. My apologies. Fuel is here. I clicked the wrong one. So we're going to click here. And we will see that our range is 40 billion kilometers. That's twice. Now that's a lap. One end to the other and back. That's a lot of distance. But our ship is going to be bouncing around between things. And we need it to go for 5 years. We're going to want more fuel than that. I'm going to actually add at least 3 of these. And that gives me 115 billion kilometers that it can travel. I think that's pretty good. At that point, it probably needs to come home, refit, and then we'll be good. Sorry about that, folks. Had to cough there for a second. But that should do it well for us. We've knocked off about 100 tons. We have increased the maintenance life a little bit. We've dropped the average failure rate, the annual failure rate there. So reducing the size and the amount of fuel taken to something that is more what we really need as opposed to just, whatever is available definitely helps with our ship design. Okay. Guess what? We're done designing a ship. What do you mean? That wasn't hard at all. I didn't have to like tinker with a bunch of things or anything like that. This is what I mean when I say, yes, it's a little bit micromanagey, but it feels like the things you're tweaking, like when we put the engine together, they just kind of make sense. It isn't like you have 150,000 different Lego pieces. You still have the standard Lego pieces, but you can turn them into whatever you want and you can use them how you want. Yes, you have to put them together, but I don't know. It just feels important when you're doing it. It feels like it makes sense for the scale of the game. Really enjoying that. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up by setting up one of our shipyards to build this. Now, one thing to note, the design is classed as a military vessel. Now, I don't know how auto assignment works yet, but this isn't being labeled as a survey ship because that's what we selected here. So that is somewhat important, but I don't think we have to go crazy over knowing what that is just yet. And we're going to click right here, close that, and we're going to go into our shipyards, which is on the standard economics tab right there. How do we build a ship? Well, first we have to select the shipyard that's going to build it. The good news is Newport News, because of how long it took us, has been able to get to where it can do 3,300 ton ships. And our ship is a little under 3,000. So that's good. We can do it. We're going to click Newport News. It is a naval ship, so we would need to be able to do that. And we're going to come down here. We have it selected. We're going to come down here and we're going to go say retool. Now, your first real retool for any particular shipyard is entirely free. You'll notice it says here, build cost free, completion date immediate. It's only the first time you put something in. After that, it takes time to swap between ship types. So do be mindful of that. There is something else. When we start designing freighters and colony ships, we will do it with some intent so that we don't have to refit between doing them, even though they're different ship models. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. For now, what we want to do is retool, and then we select the ship type. Well, we only have the one ship type now, the Carl Edward Sagan. By the way, there you see the SS attached to it. So we don't really have anything to select there. We're going to say set activity, and it will immediately make that available to us. Now, it's going to tell us, hey, we're doing something else right now. Are you sure? The continual upgrades, it doesn't cause a problem when you do that. It will basically stop it for the moment. In fact, it doesn't even stop it. It's still its current activity. So we had no class assigned. Now we have a class assigned. This is even going to continue to improve in size while we're doing this. And that's great. That was step one. Now, again, if we had retooled from a different ship, we wouldn't be able to do an actual build immediately, but we can because this is our first iteration of ships here. And so we go down to this bottom section and we tell it the task type is construction, okay? And for our purposes, I'm going to use this, the use admin. And what that does is it tells us where do we want to put this. And it turns out, yes, I want to put this in the Sol expeditionary command. I have a command for that. So using the admin commands, I can specifically tell it what fleet to put it in, basically. Not fleet, but what grouping. If I don't use that, it will actually offer me the fleets that are available. And in fact, we could just do that. That would be okay too, I guess. There's really no hurt in doing that. So we'll do that. And then it's asking what class of ship I want to build. Well, as I mentioned, when we do freighters, this will make a little more sense. But for now, it's the only ship that's available to us of this type and size. So we're fine with that. In fact, we don't really have any options. Now, typically, the first ship in a series is what the class name is. So we're going to call this the Carl Edward Sagan, just by typing it in there. We do have some other options. We could do select name, and select name would bring up the lists, and we could go and find a specific name that we want to use. But there you have it. Parasites. What are parasites? Nothing we need to worry about right now. I think this is when you have, I think what I was told is it had to do with fighters. When you're building a carrier type ship, it tells it where to get the fighters from or something like that. Not something we're going to be messing with anytime soon. So we don't need to worry about that guy right there. Then what we're going to do is say create task. And you're going to notice nothing happened. What? What's that about? Well, actually something did happen, and I'll show you in just a second, but we clicked it once. We're going to go ahead and click it a second time. You'll notice it changed the ship name. So it did say the Carl Edward Sagan, right? It now says the George Van Beesbrook. We're going to go ahead and say click create task again. And you're going to notice create task is going to go away then. We've clicked it twice now. We have 2 slipways, which means we can build 2 ships at a time. But I don't see any ships there. What's going on? They are under shipyard tasks. When you build ships, it's considered a shipyard task, and it tosses it into this queue here. You don't see it where you might think you would see it. And that's kind of important to know, right? You want to know that. But it tells us exactly when it'll be done. These will be done in a year and a month. Currently, their progress is 0, and here's the current build rate. Now, you might remember when we looked at research, under construction, there was this guy that said shipbuilding rate. We can improve our shipbuilding rate and make them go faster. We're just not going to do that just yet. We're working on our research rate right now. But in the future, we can speed that up a little bit. Okay, well, as we fast forward the game, eventually in a year and a month, we will have 2 ships ready for us. And that'll probably be our next major milestone to get to. We might do some maintenance in the next episode just to kind of keep things moving in the direction that we need. But beyond that, I want to thank you for your time. Hope you'll stick with us through the rest of this series. This is the Complete Beginner's Guide for Aurora 4X. And until next time, fair travels.